everybody. We are in this live webinar together with you guys and with BrightNet as well. So, thank you for joining us on this third webinar, which is about choosing an IT nearshoring partner that fits you like a glove. So, actually, with IT outsourcing and nearshoring, you ensure that your company meets the increasing demands of the market and your business partners. So you increase your productivity and you can flexibly scale up your resources as required. So this is what we are going to explain you in this webinar today. We will show you how to choose a partner for IT nearshoring in Europe and explain you how we support the growth of our clients and maximize the value of their IT. My name is Erwin Roels. I'm responsible for business marketers, and I would like to hand over the word to Magda from RightNet. Magda, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Magda Jagiełło, and it's a great pleasure for me to get to know you today. I will also have a pleasure to introduce you our company out of the nearshoring perspective. And to start this webinar, we were wondering with what to start. And we decided that it would be very good to start at the beginning, which is answer on some questions that I guess that come to mind and which are very basic. I mean, who is BrightNet to talk about nearshoring? What does BrightNet even know about it? Why should anyone listen to BrightNet? And on what basis BrightNet builds its conclusions? And these are questions that I would like to answer you in the first part of our today meeting. In order to do so, let me provide you with some numbers and facts. BrightNet has been on the market for over 15 years. During this time, we started working with many clients, and at this moment, our portfolio consists of over 70 international customers. We also built the team that is over 800 IT specialists. What is important out of our perspective, and I hope that not only from our, is fact that we were awarded as Best IT Employer in Poland 5 times in a row by Computer World in Audit IT Survey. And from very recent and up-to-date information, BrightNet was chosen also by Clutch within an independent ranking as a top IT service provider. According to that rating, BrightNet is one of the top 10 IT companies in Poland. And what is the most important in this ranking and in this award is fact that these are our clients, thanks to whom we were ranked so high, because Clutch, when preparing this rating, bases a lot on the reviews that clients give to companies during the interviews conducted by Clutch analysts. So for us, it is a really great information. And this experience, which was also confirmed by Clutch, we have gained in cooperation with many clients, for example, with MasterCard, with AXA Assistance, Generali, Rolixus, or IGT. Going by some other hard facts and some interesting, which might not be so easy to find in the web, our 5 largest clients are companies with whom we have been continuously cooperating for over 8 years. By the way, the average length of cooperation in BrightNet is 5 years. Although, as a rule, when we enter a path of cooperation, we try not to leave it. We built a team of 140 specialists for one customer in one project, which was for public sector, and this team was the biggest one that we ever built. And we need about quarter to put together 50 specialists in a team. And one more information is that from the beginning of this year, I mean in the first quarter of 2021, 98 people joined our team. Apart from the typical outsourcing of IT specialists, we also provide such solutions as Salesforce, business intelligence, web portals, integrations, and quality assurance. And thanks to cooperation with so many different clients from different regions, in different models, and in different technologies, I strongly believe that we have knowledge and experience that might be interesting and which we would be happy to share. So let's switch to the main part of today's webinar, which is answer on question, how to choose an IT nearshoring partner that fits you like a glove. But first, I think that we should ask, why go for a nearshoring partner from Poland at all? And when thinking about it, we should back to 1919, because 30 years ago, Poland found itself in such point of history that it could start building the country in many aspects practically from the scratch. And of course, it was a big challenge, but also a big chance for us. And those were times of great changes. In 1990, the first IKEA was open. In 1992, we could enjoy the goodness of McDonald's. Of course, I mentioned it with a pinch of salt, but these were historic changes, in fact. And confirmation of some potential of Poland in the world were such figures as Marie Curie Skłodowska, Frédéric Chopin, or Nicolaus Copernicus. But there was still a lot to do, to be frank. And since 1990, Poland has changed a lot. And now, when we considering nearshoring IT options, Poland is a destination worth taking into account. The first argument of considering Poland as a nearshoring partner is connected with availability of IT specialists. Poland is definitely the largest tech talent pool in Central and Eastern Europe with 325,000 IT specialists. For some comparison, the second-ranked Ukraine has 30% fewer experts on the market. Another argument is the quality of these specialists. Polish programmers are recognized as one of the best in Europe. This is due to a strong and extensive education system. And although we had the oldest university in the world, we haven't had that recognition a few decades ago. That has changed because of some hard work that was also put into it. And today there are 18 technical universities in Poland, which educating each year 300,000 students in technical subjects. And every year, 15,000 graduates enter the job market. So these numbers are not without significance. Just like knowledge of foreign languages, for example, English, which is some kind of base. And apart from this solid talent pool and technical quality, Poland's geographic location is also very important. And by this geographic location, I mean, of course, connection with Western European countries and the fact that Poland belongs to the European Union. But beyond this, also having a partner that understands your culture, your working environment is important for successful cooperation. Some attractiveness of Poland as a nearshoring destination is confirmed by growing activity of such companies as ABB, Google, Siemens, McKinsey, and others who entered to Poland and opened here R&D centers. So if you would like to focus on core competencies, hire high-quality experts, and reduce operating costs, I think that it is worth of taking into consideration Poland, which is leading this Eastern European software development market. But the question is how to choose a nearshoring partner, the right one. In Poland, we have more than 500 companies which specialize in IT outsourcing. So which company to choose and what criteria to follow? I think that it is indeed not an easy task and also burned into a lot of responsibility. But thanks to a lot of discussions and negotiations with our clients, we gathered some criteria and we would like to share with you our resources. And these all criteria are related with key three issues: focus, profitability, and availability. So I think that we should start this discussion and thinking with experience, because it is something obvious that then when we start the cooperation, that we start looking for a right IT partner, we as a client should ask ourselves if this company has the competence and experience in the key area for us. But we should take also into account not only the state of as it is, but also some our plans and perspectives. Will the chosen partner also be able to support me in year 2 or 3? Will he help me in transformations? Are my development plans in line with their? Are they able to make some similar investments on their side to prepare for the next challenges on my side? These are the questions that should be also asked in this experience aspect. When we are talking about the experience, it is also linked with the variety of technologies, because technological diversity in such a changing world in which we live now is very helpful and necessary, to be frank. Thanks to it, we are not tied to one technology. We can react to some unpredictable situations and adapt to them. And if we want a partner who will take care of our IT ecosystem comprehensively, we should examine his technological capabilities. Will he be able to support us in maintaining legacy systems, transition to the cloud, QA, business analysts? Can we count on him to tell us which solution is better for us, Java or .NET, React or Angular? And one more thing by this fact, that when choosing IT partner, I think that it's also important that this partner is not only focused on technology, but on solving the problem and providing business value for client. If he will do it using PHP, R, or Python, I think that it is a secondary issue. Of course, it cannot be detached from the client's technology stack, but it's not only all about technologies. When talking about the experience, we shouldn't forget also about other aspects of it. For example, experience in remote work. Of course, due to last year, everyone has some more or less experience in work remotely, but does IT partner have standards in place for remote communication, quality control of work, security? We should also check it. And beyond the simple fact of having experience, it would be very nice if the partner is also eager to share this knowledge with us. Here the question is if the partner will share his insights, or does he only want to act as an executor of our will? Can we count on his advices, initiatives, observations? For sure, he will not be able to do it without willingness to learn. And by willingness to learn, I don't mean technically, but also rather primary about client. Is the partner trying to understand where and how I make money? Is he trying to support me in growing my business? Does he know what I care about it and what my plans are for coming weeks, months, years? Where he cares about it, he will know how to develop the team. And continuous development of the team is something very crucial because it translates directly into the quality of our services. While we are on the subject of team, we cannot ignore attrition rate. Team turnover, I think that all of us will agree that it is a pain for every supplier, client, and project. And of course, there are many factors which affect on the departure rate, and not all of them can be controlled by us. But nevertheless, the quit rate is a data that allows you build some image of the potential IT partner. By the way of this topic, it is also worth to know the company's procedures, policies connected with finding replacements, knowledge transition, work continuity, and so on. Because for sure, some situations where the staff will leave the team will happen. But the only question is how your partner will be prepared for it. And when deciding on the option of nearshoring, we certainly care about productivity and scalability. Very often, this is the main reason why we are looking for IT nearshoring partner, so our partner should be also focused on it. But does he adapt the team in terms of knowledge, skills, and size to my needs? It is obvious that every IT service provider wants to grow with its customers. But what if the situation is rather different? less optimistic. When the customer has to face some unpredictable situation or crisis, how will the provider behave when the team has to be reduced? And because I don't like the narration of saying without giving any specific arguments, let me provide you with the example from May last year. The situation with the global pandemic, of course, was not predicted by any of us. And one of our key customers is a customer from the gambling sector. And closure of casinos, reduced revenues from games and lotteries affected his results a lot. And together with the client, we had to suddenly and fast reduce the team by about half, which, believe me, was a significant number. And what is more, at the same time, we were also asked about some reducing of our rates for a period of 2 months, because in this time, the client was reorganizing, re-strategizing, and so on. And we agreed for it. We agreed also that when it will be a space to do so, some of these our specialists will return to his project, of course, to some extent, because not all of them will be still available, but we promised that it will be possible. And it was a tough task for both of us. On the one hand, financial issues, on the other, resource issues, on the third, trust placed in us. And in Poland, we have a proverb that a true, real friend is found in poverty. And in BrightNet, we think that it also applies to business. After such tough situation, or rather after how your partner behaves in such situation, you can judge whether he's really a partner or just a supplier. And finally, one more important factor in choosing the right IT partner, I think that very up-to-date approach to the resource challenge. I think that all of us see more and more clearly that balance between demand and supply on IT market is distorted, and in this situation is likely to get more serious. So when choosing a nearshoring IT partner, it is worth checking also his ideas how to address this resource challenge. For years in BrightNet, we have been providing education of young people and supporting people who want to change their profession, career. And this is confirmed by many our programs. For example, Step 1, in which we help people to enter Java development and front-end path. Force Academy, where we train Salesforce developers from the scratch, or a recently launched training program for future Microsoft Power BI specialists. What is more, we cooperate also with all universities, technical universities, in all cities where we have offices. And apart from this educational source, in BrightNet, very strong and important source of recruitment of new specialists is our recommendations. Recommendations from our current and former employees. For example, in business intelligence department, around 50% of new employees are people from recommendations. So to sum up, it's all about communication. Do we understand each other? And not only linguistically, but do we understand each other as business partners? And the last question that needs to be answered before we will move to the most interesting part of our webinar, which is interview with Patrick, of course, is how we do it in BrightNet. And to be honest with you, in BrightNet, we are proponents of small steps. We understand that building trust is a process that requires time, requires proof, and we want the customer to be convinced that we are a partner they want to be for years, a partner they can always come to for advice, a partner who will not leave them in the difficult situation. And our experience with IGT or MasterCard shows that this approach works. Because in the case of both these clients, we started cooperation 13, 15 years ago with just 1-2 consultants for so-called trial period. And at this moment, we still provide them services, and our teams for each of these clients number over 50 people. So at the beginnings, after some formalities like signing non-disclosure agreement or another agreement, usually we propose our new clients approach try and buy. We often start the cooperation with a small audit, some narrow expertise, consulting, or modest support in form of part of FTE. Once the trial is successful, our scope of responsibility increases and consequently the team also grows. We build trust, we gain some knowledge about the industry, about the specifics of the client, we learn to communicate in two-way street. And with this experience, we are able to offer more and more complex services. And in this stage, we also take on more tasks. Very often we manage a team, and we also very often cooperate in this stage in fixed price model, in which whole responsibility for the project is on our side, or managed service in which we are accountable for the effectiveness of our work by some SLAs, KPIs. And finally, although we had developed some standard points of this path of development of our cooperation with clients, I think that such plan for cooperation is actually very individual. Each client is different. For each, a different pace and different direction of development will be appropriate. Every client has his own aims, plans, goals, ambitions. And I think, in Brightnet, we think that only an IT partner that is aware of it will have the privilege of observing closely how his clients develop, grow, and change in terms of technology and business. And in Brightnet, we just desire to be a part of it.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really awesome. I am impressed with what you guys are doing. So, and actually, one question came up to my mind. Whenever I am a customer out of Germany or somewhere else in Europe, I want to know, how do you guys cope with the day-to-day operations?
Yeah, it's some kind of next step to this presentation.
Okay.
I think that it is the process that is changing all the time, just with the maturity of the relation with the customer and trust that we gain during this cooperation. And Frank, it will be the topic of our next webinar in June. So I can reveal it to you, but I think that in June we will answer on this question in details. But at this moment, I can answer on the other question that appears during this webinar and my presentation, which is connected with try and buy approach that we propose to our clients.
Exactly.
This approach depends, of course, of the scope of the work, but I will give you the example that when we, for example, start the cooperation in business intelligence area, we very often propose to start with audit of data warehouse or ETL processes, both of this. This audit is, of course, we have some price for this audit, which is some promotion price, let's call it in this way, because it is also the occasion for us to better know the client. And we can agree, for example, that if we will develop our services at cooperation in the future, the client will not pay for this data warehouse audit. So it will be for free for him, just for the good start.
Okay. You were mentioning the next webinar as well. When will the next webinar be? You said something about June. When will
Yes,
that be?
it's planned for 1st June at
1st
12
of June.
o'clock.
12
Yeah,
o'clock
exactly.
at midday.
So
Okay.
I invite you, of course, for it.
Yes, of course. And I think that everybody and all the attendees from today are invited to this webinar as well. So we would like to go to the second part of our webinar today. Actually, after Magda's explanation about nearshoring, I would like to have a short chat with you, Patrick. Hi, Patrick. This is Patrick Kammerman. Patrick is Chief Information Officer at EF Education First. So, hello. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Erwin, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me. And well, Magda, great presentation, very insightful. Each time I learn something new, even so I have quite a bit of experience with near and offshoring.
Okay, cool. Because that's interesting for our attendees of today as well, obviously. You are CIO at EF Education First. Can you tell us something a bit more about your company and what you are doing?
Of course. So EF Education First, with the full name, is the world's largest privately held education company. And what we do, to a certain extent, you can see that in my background. Our core service, our core product is language travel. So we send students from all over the world to our school to learn a language that is natively spoken in the location of the school. Now, that is sort of the rational or the dry explanation of what we're doing. I think the pictures in the background show a bit better what the experience is, since our mission, at the heart, our mission is opening the world through education. So it's not just learning about the language. It's getting to know new people, making friends, immersing yourself in a culture, gaining confidence in the weeks and months that you spend with us, traveling and learning with us.
So you are providing probably an experience for life, I can imagine.
That is the idea. So our objective is always to provide a life-changing moment. If it's only 2-4 weeks, but it can be up to a year.
Okay. Cool.
I can probably say a few more words about the company very, very quickly, because that's important to also understand when we talk more about off and nearshoring and technology in general. We are a very culture-driven company. Culture is an important part of our strategy. Or in other words, probably one important thing for us is, while we are a large multinational corporation with about 50,000 employees worldwide, we really aim at staying small while we grow big. So at the heart, we want to stay small. We want to be agile, nimble, fast, flexible, more like a startup. And I mention that because that has also implications on my IT team and how we run technology. So our objective is to keep the smallest possible IT team. This is not about just saving costs. We are cost conscious, not a question, but it's more about being agile, fast, and being leading edge in our industry, also from a technology perspective. So we are 100% cloud. We have no physical data centers, no hybrid cloud. So that's an important aspect. We do our own development, partly Microsoft, partly open source, and that. Both in the cloud and in terms of development, always together with partners.
Nice to hear about your cloud first strategy as well. I can imagine that you are selecting partners or IT partners, well, a couple of times a year, I suppose. What is crucial for EF in the partner selection process? Can you tell more about that?
Yeah, so we try not to select that often new partners, but I'll come back to that a bit later. But to your question, what is sort of crucial for us? I mentioned we are a very culture-driven company, so cultural fit is probably the most important thing in our selection. I mean, our values, which underpin our strategy or our culture, are passion, entrepreneurial spirit, speed, and flexibility. So we need a partner who is able to adapt to that, who feels comfortable with that kind of an approach. And to be even a bit more concrete, I can tell you what we are not. We are not a process-oriented company. We are not process-driven. We are not well documented. We actually lack lots of documentation, also in the tech space. So we need a partner who can adapt and feel comfortable with and work with an environment that does not have a very strong software development lifecycle. We are, however, a company that is very proud of what we're doing. So we need a partner who shares that value, that over time grows to also being proud of what EF is doing, the solutions, now more from a technology perspective, the solutions we develop jointly, and that are the foundation for our business. So in essence, to your question, Erwin, I think that the culture is the crucial aspect that we consider in selecting a partner.
Okay. And at a certain moment of time, you started the collaboration with BrightNet, obviously. Why was it so important for you to go for the, how would I say, outsourcing, nearshoring option? What is the advantage for you to choose for this kind of option in this case?
So, first of all, I have to say I do not like the word outsourcing.
Okay.
It's technically correct, so I'm not going to argue that. But outsourcing sounds like I give something away. It's out, far away. But I don't think that is the most promising model. It's more about the collaboration, the cooperation in such a partnership. And I can tell you a bit more how we do it. And I'm not saying this is the perfect model or it applies to anyone, but for us, together with BrightNet, this has been tremendously successful.
Okay.
So our model is that we do about 50-50 in terms of 50% internal, 50% with a partner like BrightNet, in typically a nearshore model. We have tried offshore, we have tried onshore models, but at the end, what was for us most promising, given the fact that we're such an international company, that again, cultural fit is for us such tremendously important, that we are able to augment our internal teams with nearshore staff, nearshore teams, that very strongly integrate with our teams, that it becomes a long-term engagement, down to the level where our partner forms personal relationships with our staff, with our internal engineers. So it becomes a mutual beneficial arrangement where we can learn something from our partners, but also we can give something back. So, and I think that's sort of the model we were able to put in place with BrightNet.
And how did BrightNet support your project at the utmost?
So the collaboration started in the Salesforce space.
Okay.
When we were thinking about developing a new CRM platform and struggled tremendously in building an internal team. And that's sort of a vicious circle. You don't have an internal team, so it's hard to attract talent. So it's hard to build an internal team. And that's where, now in this particular instance, BrightNet came in, was able to help us with highly qualified staff, with an entire team that was very instrumental, sort of in the first phase of building this project. And from that on, it evolved into a very close collaboration in that space, where BrightNet continued to help us on the maintenance part, helped us to build our internal team, given their knowledge. In the meantime, yes, we have also some internal staff while we continue to do further projects in that space with BrightNet.
So it started off with Salesforce, the implementation, the maintenance. That's what I hear from you. Has the partnership evolved into other areas of your business as well?
So this was actually quite a natural transition that sort of based on this very good collaboration on this project. And whenever we had a need of a new project, also in another space came up in non-Salesforce areas like web development, backend development, or even like most recently a desktop application development, we turned to BrightNet, asking them, on already knowing them quite well, if they could support us in that. Sometimes it worked out. Sometimes there was no particular fit. But I think that is also what is a good sign for a strong partnership, that you can be very open, and when you are honest, where a good collaboration on a project is promising and where maybe it's not a perfect fit.
Hmm. Yeah, I hear you talking about partnership and trust and working together, collaboration. How did you decide to trust BrightNet at a certain moment in time? What was so
So,
particular for you?
so on the one hand, I mean, trust can be given and trust can be earned.
Hmm.
I mean, at the very beginning, in the initial discussions, that was quite some time ago, we did feel that BrightNet is an excellent fit with our culture. And of course, we went through some of the considerations that Magda was explaining well. I can add one point here. That for me was always very important in when establishing a new collaboration, a new partnership. While, of course, it's important to think about the objectives, what you want to achieve, it's equally important to think about how you want to achieve that. And that starts with yourself. So, what is important to you? How do you like to work? What are sort of success factors for you personally? That the collaboration or an outsourcing fits like a glove. You have to think about what you expect of your glove, not just what it does, but also the design, the texture, the fabric, etc. So very much this started with us. And then we were able to sort of give the trust to BrightNet at the beginning, since we felt there is a good fit.
Hmm.
And then over time, and that's sort of the trust earned aspect, we learned that I think, again, mutually, that we could trust each other and
Hmm.
in that sense strengthen our collaboration.
Collaboration.
And I think there are many proof points in that. I mean, if I look just very recently, I got an email from one of our product owner, project managers,
Hmm.
thanking the team for a successfully delivered project. And there was no distinction between the external team, the internal team. It was just the team. And that's where I feel that's the proof point for me that there is a foundation of trust.
Okay. So actually, my last question, you as a CIO, you see, I feel that culture, collaboration, working together, trust is getting more and more important when taking the decision. And you've never talked about the bits and bytes. I understand they are important, but I understand that you emphasize the importance of working together in the culture as well. Is that true? Is that a
I think it's an excellent summary.
okay?
Culture is everything. Of course, the bits and bytes have to be there as well. But I have seen many examples of RFIs, request for information, or
Yes.
request for proposals for
Mhm.
a collaboration for an IT offshoring or nearshoring, where 90% was about the bits and bytes, 10% about the price, and sort of the cultural fit was missing. If I can give the audience one recommendation to take away, I would say pay a lot of attention to the cultural fit.
Okay, that's an interesting one. And I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of IT managers and IT directors on the attendees list today as well. So that's an important one. What we see as well is that CIOs are getting much more business related and away from the bits and bytes. I expect in your case that's similar, isn't it?
That's of course true. Even so, I have in my defense to say I'm in terms of background, I'm an engineer. And if you want me to write some code, I probably still could. Not maybe at an excellent level, but I still could.
Okay, great. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Patrick Kammerhammer, CIO of EF Education First. Really insightful, and thank you for having us here. Here, there is Magda again. Hi, Magda. How are you? Thank you for your presentation, by the way.
Thank you, Arvin. I am prepared for your questions. So waiting for any clarifications that we could make.
Yes, exactly. The last slide you were talking about the BrightNet style. What makes you guys so different when it comes to that? I hear a lot of things, and I can imagine that BrightNet is once and for all a good tech company, but at the other hand, that's what I feel from Patrick as well. You are working hard and closely together with the customers. What makes you different?
I think that this what makes our make different is fact that we are different for different customers. To be frank, as I said, we try, and I believe that with success, to treat every customer very individually. We try to adjust our company and some standards in our companies to some standards and culture of our clients, and I think that it is the way to success and both satisfaction
So
for both sides.
flexibility, agility, that's what I hear as well, into collaboration.
Yes, exactly. We want to be with our clients for a long time.
Okay.
We want to bring them real value for their business. So we try to be proactive, come up with some initiatives also, and we share knowledge with them. We just try to be a partner, not a supplier, as I try to tell you during my presentation that we want to be something more, and I think that it is this added value to our customers.
Okay. I've got a question from the audience over here. Let me quickly have a look to that. So it's a question from Joanna. Thank you for that. A question to one of you both, or maybe both of you. Is BrightNet support EF only remotely or only on-site? And I'm just going to finish Joanna's question here. Does language barriers play a role? Do BrightNet have a project management manager with the local language knowledge? How does that work?
I think that the best person to answer it will be Patrick. So, Patrick, would you like?
Of course, of course. So there are several factors that we could look at. So number one, of course, over the last 12, 14 months, and the support was almost 100% remote. Indeed, before that, while sort of the model was a clear nearshoring and remote support, we did have an exchange in the sense that some of BrightNet developers, engineers, architects would come to our location here in Switzerland and work locally with the team for a limited period of time, or the other way around. As a matter of fact, I had the privilege to be in Warsaw meeting the BrightNet team in last October. That was just a small window of opportunity. Language barriers is an important one. It's actually language barriers was a reason why I'm not doing that much work in India anymore in an offshore model. We never felt language is an issue or a barrier when working with BrightNet. Even so, I very openly have to say, EF Education First is a very international company. I'm sitting here in the Zurich office in our headquarters, and I'm probably one of the few Swiss citizens here in the office. So for us, it's also very natural to communicate in English.
Okay, so that makes it easy for the people from BrightNet as well, I suppose. Magda,
I could add to it that we
yes?
also support and cooperate with clients from DACH region and from Germany, for example. And in this model of cooperation, we can also provide, for example, project manager or team leader who is speaking fluently German, and he is some kind of single point of contact between us and, for example, business at customer sites. Because in IT world, less or more everyone speaks English, and it's not a problem. Very often also technical documentation is in English. Even if not, we can translate it by some tools, so it's not a big issue. But of course, when we gather some business requirements, it is necessary to understand each other correctly. And then we can also provide the project manager with German language, or, for example, business analyst who can support us in properly understanding and proper understanding and preparing documentation, which will gather those business requirements.
You get best of both worlds, I would say. That's perfect. I hope, Joanna, this is a good answer to your question. Got another one. How was the team build up between EF and BrightNet? Maybe that's a question for you, Patrick, as well. How do you started off with building up that team? Was it gradually in different steps, stages? How do you see that?
So indeed, and again, there are probably two dimensions to the team build-up. So there's like the hard facts, the numbers, the people, etc. That was gradual. We started with a relatively small team, if I remember correctly, 3, 4, 5 people probably. Initial team, which was the core, and from that it evolved quite naturally. But building a team is actually work. So it's not just hiring people or hiring, contracting at the end people. It's, for us, it was also a lot of investment into the team dynamics to get to know each other. And that's, again, mutual, getting to know how BrightNet works and BrightNet adapting to our culture, our way of working, including, as I mentioned, helping maybe us to be a bit more documented, a bit more process-driven than we were in the past.
Okay.
Since, while that was clearly part of our culture, we learned something to be more effective in that sense also from BrightNet. So again, it's about numbers, but then it's also about sort of interactions and team dynamics.
Yes, I can imagine. Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. I hope this answers the question from one of our attendees. Magda, I've got a last question for you before we end this webinar of today. And before, I would like to invite everybody, obviously, for the 1st of June webinar. A last question. What is today's attrition rate at BrightNet?
So hard question for the end of our webinar, but I expect that it can occur. To be frank, we should, I think, divide it into different periods of time, because 2020 brings to all of us a lot of unpredictable changes and some unexpected situation. So I would rather tell you that, for example, in 2019, our attrition rate generally in the whole company was about 14%, which is some standard on the Polish market, and some benchmark that should be okay for such companies. In 2020, it was unfortunately generally a little bit over it, but not in every department in our company. For example, in Salesforce or in business intelligence departments, our attrition rate is less than 8%, which is a great number when we compare it to the market results. So I will tell you that it depends on department and on period of time. But I think that more or less we are within this standard numbers. In some areas, we are above the average in this positive understanding.
Okay, but that's indeed 8% is very good when it comes down to the attrition rate. When I see it in the rest of Europe, in IT companies, they tend to talk about 20 to 22%. So you are way below of that one, which is great. Okay.
And if I may add one point on that, since here I would like to make BrightNet a compliment. If I look at the team with which we started originally, there's still the majority of them are here. Again, it was a small group, but still the core people are still in at BrightNet, but also with us as a customer, as a client.
Okay.
And I consider that rather unusual that we have this continuance. And yeah, thank you very much for that.
So
it's a pleasure for us, Patrick, to be a part of your projects.
So apart from productivity, scalability, continuity is another important asset that you brought on the table over here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much to all of you, and thank you to all the attendees of today as well. It was always happy to share this information with you, obviously, and we would like to see you back on the 1st of June for our, if I'm not mistaken, fourth webinar in a row already this year. So more than happy to join us on that one as well. Talk to you later. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.